This PowerPoint video deals specifically with shapes and all the crazy things that you can do with shapes within PowerPoint. And actually, a lot of this applies to Word as well. So you can do a lot of this in Word. So I'm going to start by zooming out so I see my whole sheet here. I'm going to go to Insert and I'm going to go to Shapes and all these shapes to choose from. So I'm just going to click on one. And then all you need to do is just click and drag inside of your document here to insert the shape. Now, it's coming in with a blue background and I think a blue outline. I'm not sure why those are the default settings, but they are. I'll show you how to adjust that shortly. And I can go ahead and put another shape on top of that. So I'm going to put a rectangle in here. Now, these are like layers. So this shape is on top of the other shape. And I'm going to go ahead and change the fill of this. So I'm going to say that this is going to have no fill and maybe a black outline instead. And then I'm going to go to Home and go to Format Painter and then click on that. So you can use your Format Painter to copy the elements of one shape to another. The other thing that I'm going to show you that you probably should do, and I would do in this exercise, I would right click on this last shape because it's got no fill and it's got a black outline. I would say that I want that to be the default. Save as default shape. Now, this doesn't really tell you what it's doing, but what it's doing now is that any shape you bring in is going to have no background with a black outline, which is what I want. So now you can move any one of these shapes by clicking on it and moving it about. Now, really important for you to know here is as I'm moving this, you see that little red line in the middle? It's telling me that this is now vertically centered. Okay, so up and down, it's centered. So I'm going to move it left to right, hoping to find, see, now it's telling me that it's horizontally centered. That's a really big deal, and that's new to this program. So now I know that this shape is perfectly centered inside of the other shape. Now, you can do that another way. The only way we used to be able to do it is by selecting both shapes. I'm going to show you how to do this as well. So I'm going to go ahead and put my Shift key down and click on the other shape. And now if I go to Format and Align, I can manually do this. It's two steps. So I would say Align Center. You're going to notice nothing moves because I've already centered this. And then I would go Align Middle. So that would have done the same thing, but these new little grid lines that show up are fantastic. So now I'm going to keep going with my diagram here. So I'm actually drawing something as I'm teaching you this lesson. I'm not going to insert a shape, so I want an oval. Now, if you put your Shift key as you're inserting a shape, you will get a perfectly proportional or proportionate shape, just as wide as it is tall. And I find that to be very handy because I want a perfect circle here. So I have my Shift key down and it's giving me a perfect circle. All right. And now I want to be able to line this up. So now if you want it right on the border, you can put it right on the border. And in order to teach this lesson, I'm gonna just keep going here. So I'm gonna copy this, and you can use your Control key in order to copy this. Okay, so here I got my Control key down, and I'm copying this over. And you notice how I have that one line telling me that I'm straight right across, and now I have another line telling me I'm in the middle, and that's where I want to be. So I'm going to let go of my mouse first, and then my Control key. So I have another one there, and I'm going to do the same thing here. And now it's telling me, it's giving me new symbols. It's telling me that I'm still lined up. It's telling me that I'm lined up on the right as well. But you see those two little double arrows? It's telling me that I'm equidistant. So the distance between the three are exactly the same. Very, very handy once again. Now, I used to be able to do the same thing, and you can still do the same thing by selecting all three objects. And what you would do is you go back to this menu, and you would ask to distribute horizontally. I'm going to hit this, and of course nothing's going to happen because they were already fine. But let's say that they weren't fine, right? I would select all three of these. Oh, wait a minute, my bad. I would have to start to the leftmost and to the rightmost where I want. And let's say this one was off. Okay, so now I can select all three of these and then go to distribute horizontally. And now that's exactly where that is. Now with all three of these selected, I can once again take my Control and just bring these down, right? And I've just copied that over. So lots of options in here as far as where you want to align and whether you want to distribute. It's very important. And now I've been aligning objects to one another. If you wanted to align something to the slide, you can check that option and get that option instead. The next thing you need to know, I guess, is that these shapes are the last ones that I brought in, so they're above the other shapes. So if you want to start filling these, you can, of course, right? So we can go to shape fill here, and I can say that I want those to be a brown, all right? Or I can go into gradients, I can go into textures, I can go into more textures, and I can get into patterns here. And let's say that I want these to look like a pocket in a pool table. I could choose something that somewhat resembles that, I guess. That might not be perfect. So I'm going to go with that. And I can change the color. If I don't quite like that color, I can go to more colors and choose a different brown and hit OK. So there's that. And now I can color my felt as well with whatever color that I want. I can also use a picture if I wanted to fill that with. So many choices to choose from. Yeah, PowerPoint now has an eyedropper tool, so if I had a picture of something that had the perfect color, I'd be able to reproduce that. Very handy. But for now, I'm going to keep it simple. I'm going to go with maybe just a traditional green for my felt. And then for this, I can go into, there's all kinds of fills. So I believe that I don't want gradient. There we go. We have some to choose from here. I can choose a nice wooden here. I'm going to continue my little exercise here. I'm going to ask for another oval. Got my shift key down. This one's going to be a little bit smaller. And you're able, of course, in PowerPoint to zoom in as far as you want. And then I can ask for another one of these. But before I do, I'm going to zoom back out. And I'm just going to take this new little circle here. And I'm going to undo. What I want to do is I want to group all of this together. I want this to be one object. Now, I can manually select all of these things one at a time if I wanted to, but I want you to know that you can just, with your arrow here, click a rectangle around all of these things, and then I can group all these objects into one object. So now that's one object that can be sized and moved. And the reason I wanted that grouped is I don't want to inadvertently move something like I just did. I was trying to draw some balls for my pool table, right? And I accidentally moved the felt. So now that this is grouped, I don't have to worry about that. As you draw things in PowerPoint, any new object that you insert automatically goes to the top. And right now, I just tried to draw in a pool cue, and I'd really like to rotate this, but it's not showing me a rotate button. Sometimes you need to zoom in a little bit further, and then finally the rotate option will show up. So I'm looking for like a green, there's that little circle, that's what I wanted. So I'm going to rotate this now, and then maybe zoom out a little bit, and it's wanting me to rotate, to zoom in a little bit more, to rotate it some more. I'm not sure why that is, but so there we go. So we got a pull cue, and it's on the very top of the table. So I'm just going to zoom out again. And I can fill that shape once again with whatever colors I wanted to. So there's a pull cue. And if you want to reproduce it, you can just control. All right. You can come to rotate here, and you have some preset options. So there we go. We have another one there. Now, I'm going to ask for something called the selection pane. Not that I need to use it, but I simply want you to know that this is the order in which we drew things, and this is the order in which they exist. So at the very top layer is this pull cue, and then the next one, and then other little things, right? Now, if you wanted to move, let's say that I want to take this rounded rectangle, the base of my pool table, and let's say I wanted to move it so that it's all the way to the front. Now, of course, it's going to block everything. We're not going to see anything. But just so you know, that's what that does, right? So, of course, I want to move that back down. So if you ever want an object to be in a different spot, you've got this selection pane. You also have the ability to move something forward by 1, or move it all the way completely to the front, or something backward by 1 and move it completely all the way to the back. So those options are always available, and every once in a while it comes in really, really handy. The other thing I want you to know is that you can see the grid lines that are in the back of all of this that allow you to line things up. Now, the new features allow you to line things up rather nicely, but if you want to see your grid lines, you simply go to View and Grid Lines, and it shows you where your grid lines are, all right? And you can actually set things up so that when you're putting things in, that they automatically snap objects to the grid. Now, I don't find that to be nearly as useful as it used to be, because we never had this automatic alignment features or these automatic distribute evenly features. So we almost had to rely on snap objects to the grid. Snapping objects to the grid eliminates your ability to put things exactly where you want them to be. However, it may be exactly what you need at some given point where you want things to just automatically line up to where the grid is. So here are your grid options. So if the test is asking you to do that, you can change the size of the grid. Here I already asked for it to display because I did that right from View in here. I usually always have my ruler on. Your guides are right here, and those are simply your center guides that show you exactly where the middle of your document is. So those are a great many of the things that you can do once you've inserted an object from your format menu. All right, all of these things are available to you, and now that you know where they are, hopefully you'll find them pretty useful.